Hi, I'm Indra, and I'd like to welcome you to the Messy Middle Matters, where my friends and I explore all the twists, turns, and challenges that arise in the messy middle of work. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Messy Middle Matters, where we talk about all things about the messy middle of work. I love to have the conversations that people usually don't have out loud. If they have them, they're in a hushed conversation in a hallway, maybe in a supply closet, or you're like asking a friend over DM. You're like, was I crazy about that? But anyway, I am so insanely excited for this conversation because this person helped to transform my 2025 and me personally because of the way that she walks and moves in this world. Deeply admire her for not just what she's doing, but how she's doing it and how she creates spaces that are so supportive. And so generous in the way that she does it. Welcome, Megumi.
Thank you so much. That was such a kind, glowing intro. Oh my gosh.
Well earned, well earned. I'm genuinely grateful that I've had the pleasure of crossing paths with you. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
So I grew up in Tokyo, Japan. My parents are still there. I'm half Japanese and sort of have flitted around the coasts, went to New York for college, then went to San Francisco, LA, and then am now in Kansas City with my husband. And I have a background in marketing, but I've also dabbled in production. I spent a few years pursuing acting and was hosting for a little bit. And now I am building Mero Bebe, which is a wine fueled events and media. Oh, there you go.
I
Events and
brought my
media
little
company
glass
for
with me.
women.
I'm like, I've got to bring my glass with me for this one. It's cranberry juice, but still.
Yeah.
Counts.
It works. It's never
Yeah.
too early for wine, but I get
No.
it.
So yeah. Can you pronounce that one more time? I think I may have stepped on it. Mero Bebe?
Mero Bebe, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic. And like, I love this from your site, and we'll talk about, so back in August, a mutual of ours, put out this alert about a event that they were helping you host around wine, women, and wisdom. And I saw it. I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. It just felt different. Right. And what I love from your website that describes, that I think you've beautifully encapsulated in words, women don't need more advice. They need more rooms where they can show up fully, where ambition and femininity can coexist, and where confidence is poured as generously as the wine. And that is what you do. And so went to your event in August, loved it. It totally, it rewired my brain in really interesting ways. And then went to your event in December, and we'll talk about some upcoming events, maybe at the end of this. But I was so delighted because I told you that night. I was like, ooh, I'm like, I really hope that wasn't just lightning in a bottle. I hope that she's going to be able to pull it off again. I mean, I had faith, but it happened. It happened. And you are remarkable at the way that you create spaces. But like, that didn't come out of nowhere. That came out of a career journey and a lot of things that you've done. So, I think the one thing that you said when we were talking about like what we might talk about on the podcast, the line that sticks out is the career that made sense until it didn't. Right. Do you mind digging into a little bit more about your journey?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I've sort of done the whole career pivot thing before it was trendy. I feel like nowadays everyone's like, oh, you just pivot and you do a different industry or you do a different role. And that was not a thing.
No.
When I had started out my career, I started doing marketing, like I said, at Showtime Networks, actually, in New York. And the reason I left, I loved the job, had to leave because I followed an ex-boyfriend to the Bay Area. He got a job at a startup. So I got a job at an agency doing marketing for a tech company. And I was just miserable. I think partly I missed my friends in New York, but the work was still marketing, but very, very different, doing, entertainment versus tech. And I was surrounded by all these tech people. And it was also a much smaller team. And so I think all of the different things combined made me feel really unfulfilled and not motivated. And I somehow randomly ended up in an acting class. And it was supposed to just be like a hobby or a little fun, creative thing to do.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, to my parents' horror, I am quitting my job. And I'm like, I'm going to be an actor. My parents are like, is this like a little thing you're going to do while you study for your MBA? Or
That sounds like a very natural response that they would have, or
Mhm.
like a typical response that a parent would have. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think partly it was just nothing. It was something I've never done before. I had done, I graduated from college in 3 years and I interned every semester and summer and I was
Yeah,
working.
yeah.
And all of a sudden I just wanted to blow it all up, I guess. And so that is what took me to LA.
Yeah.
And I was, obviously not was still working as a server and at a wine store and so on and so forth, doing the whole starving artist thing and booking just enough acting work to keep me going until I realized that the whole freelance life of it all.
Mhm.
It is extreme freelancing, is what I like to call acting, and it's also very last minute. You'll get a call from your agent or your manager saying, "Hey, can you get to an audition on the other side of town in 3 hours?" And then you
Yeah.
might, if you hit a callback, the callback audition is the next day, and then you might be shooting in Ohio next week. I am
Oh, I
such a
didn't
planner.
realize that. Oh,
It's
okay.
so last minute, even for
Yeah.
commercials or anything. I'm like, I worked
Interesting.
in marketing. You guys have been planning this commercial for weeks, right?
For
For
months
months.
sometimes,
Yes.
right?
You know the holiday commercial has to get shot. Why are you auditioning it tomorrow to shoot next week?
Gosh.
But I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And also thinking ahead about, do I want to have a family? And let's say I do become very, very successful. It's very long days and hours on sets, a lot of
Yeah.
time away from home. And I was like, you know what? I don't like that life either. And I'm very grateful for what acting taught me. I'm very grateful for all the opportunities I had working in relation to wine. And obviously that has sort of helped put me where I am today. So for all of that, I'm very grateful, as much as I liked to complain about my, crazy LA customers when I was a server. But
But so during that phase of that transformation, like that can be so disorienting. Right. And it can be so like I've found that when I've gone through shifts of change, like the structures that served the person who I was before, or the tools that served me, the person that I was before, didn't always support me as I was becoming or became this next thing that maybe short term, maybe long term, who the heck knows what it is. Did you have anything that actually that you were able to like leverage, whether it was a book or a practice or anything, or was it just something innately in you? You're like, no, I'm just going to do this.
I grew up as a national figure skater, and
Really?
I was, yes, a nationally competitive figure skater in Japan. And then I did the whole violin and piano. And I was in, this is so geeky, but I was in concert choir and glee club or glee choir, whatever it was called, and two a cappella groups in high school. I know I was such a nerd.
I love
And
it.
I I did a lot of dance. And so sort of that sort of performance side, I always thought of myself as not creative because I'm not very good at like the
Mm,
visual arts, but in other ways I was creative. And
yes.
so that sort of was there in terms of the performance and acting. But public speaking though was terrifying.
Okay.
So I think that was also why my parents were surprised because they were like, you're usually so quiet. You don't want to do public speaking, but you want to be on a stage and yell and cry. Like, what are you doing?
It's
Um,
so funny how we can surprise our parents. So I used to figure skate as a kid. I never landed my axle. I got that far, but I was never. So when you said that, I'm like, oh my goodness, we could talk about that too. But where I surprised my parents was I did not want to go to college at all. Like, because I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I'm like, why would I waste my time, your money on going to college if I'm not sure? My mother's like, you're going to go. It's until you figure out what you want to do, you're going. And I'm like, okay, fine. My freshman year at Rutgers, I call my mother. I go, I figured out what I want to do. I want to be a massage therapist. She's like, that's lovely, sweetheart. Go get your degree. But beyond that, what she was surprised by, she's like, "You, I was not a, my mother perceived me as not a cuddly child, right? So like this non-cuddly child is going to be touching human be like it was just such a mind. So like you're all like talking out loud, and yeah, I love that. I love that.
So funny. You know what my grandma told me once?
Hmm.
And this is when I was much younger too, maybe not even high school. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But she told me that college is where you go to study what you want to study,
Okay.
whatever you're interested in. And grad school is where you go to study what you need to study for your
Interesting.
work. And
Interesting.
I always just, I don't know if that's actually today in 2025 or 2026, sorry, if that's
Yeah.
still relevant, but I kind of took that to heart. And like my college study has very little to do with what I do now, but I sort of built my career experience outside of it through
Yeah.
internships and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so interesting. And I can see how that used to be true, and heaven only knows what's true in academia these days.
Yeah,
Okay.
nightmare.
So you're in LA, you're an
Yes.
actor.
Yes.
We know we have a sense of where you land now from what we talked about earlier. How did you get from LA to doing what you're doing today?
Oh my gosh. The journey from going into acting and leaving acting was really tough because I felt like it was such a big risk to be like, I'm quitting my job and I'm going into acting. And then
Mm.
to be like, just kidding, I'm quitting acting and I'm going back into marketing. And so I felt like, was I just giving up? All my
Mm.
acting friends were like, oh, you're quitting. And I'm like, no, I'm not quitting. I mean, yes, I'm quitting, but I'm not quitting. Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's not for me
Yeah.
anymore. And so honestly, the quitting to go into acting was easy, or sorry, yes, quitting my marketing
Mhm.
job to go into acting, I feel like was almost easier than having to go back in. Also because, going back into the corporate world, I have this, 2-3 year gap where
Yeah.
I kind of did some freelance marketing, but not a lot. Luckily I was able to get a job in LA, at a marketing and PR firm. And I started March 1st, 2020. So I was in the office 1 week before everything shut down. So that could not have been better timing.
Thankfully, you
And
got your computer. I still remember trying to get new hires their computers as all that was going down. Oh my
yes,
goodness. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it was crazy
insane.
town.
Yeah.
Um, and from there, my boss was a little much, shall we say,
Mm.
and I
Never
found a
met one like
job.
that.
And it was a small team too.
Mm.
I will say that one of my colleagues, again, very small team, one of my colleagues had to go to the emergency room for like some kind of heart condition and was in the hospital for a few days. He not checked out. I don't know what you check out of the hospital. He was
You
released or
did.
whatever.
You release your yeah.
He
Let's go with
released.
release.
Yes,
That
he was
sounds much.
released.
That's much. Yes, release.
He
He was
was
released.
released from the
Discharged.
hospital,
Discharged. That's
discharged.
the
There
word
we
we're
go.
looking for.
He was discharged from the hospital, and that afternoon he was back online. And my boss was like, "Oh, thank God you're back." It was like,
Can
"Oh."
I
Anyways,
tell you that lesson, that story is probably so resonant to so many people. Wild. It's wild how companies and people in companies just ignore something like that. It's like moving
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Wild.
So I ended up getting shingles from that company,
It's not easy.
boss, I should say. And
Yeah.
then I ended up was trying to get out, found my way into a startup where I was the first employee. So again, another small team. And I was there for 2 to 3 years, 2.5 years, maybe or
Mhm.
so. I can't remember exactly. Was also realizing that was also not a fit for me. I was the only woman in a team of men for the most part. And there was a lot of conflict within the
Mm.
team, and we were kind of working crazy hours sometimes.
Mhm.
And my husband and I were thinking about moving to Kansas City. He grew up here and his family is here, and LA is, so expensive.
Mhm.
And they would not let me work remote, essentially. Zero work from home. So sometimes we would have to go in Monday through Saturday in person. So I'm driving an hour each way. And I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore,
Yeah.
amongst other issues. I think
Sure.
after I quit, fired someone and that person quit after 2 months.
Not a you problem. There's your evidence.
It was not a me
Yeah.
problem, Um, and so I just needed to make money. And
Yeah.
so I kind of randomly fell into freelance. But sort of during that time, while I was still at the startup, I actually had a personal finance podcast um, for millennial women. And when they hired me, the startup hired me, they were going to do fundraising. And they were like, we don't want people to Google you or Google the company and see that you're doing something else. You need to look like you're 100% dedicated to the startup. So I was like, sure, whatever. So I quit my podcast. Um, but at some point I didn't miss personal finance. I didn't miss talking about
Yeah.
finance, but I missed, especially being in such a male dominated space. It was a male dominated industry.
Yeah.
I really missed talking to women and helping women.
Mhm.
And so I was like, instead of personal finance, why don't I start going at it through my real passion, wine? And so I started studying wine and kind of, instead of doing a podcast, which, as you know, is a lot of work,
It's a lot of work.
it's a lot of work. So I started with a newsletter, and it kind of just started there of just how can I talk to more women, help women, also study and drink more wine.
Yeah. Yeah. And so let's talk about how you create your events, right? If you don't mind, because like the environment, even going up to the event, like, and I've got like you, I don't know if it was informed by, but you're following a lot of the similar steps that like Priya Parker talks about in her book in The Art of Gathering. Like I felt, and it might have come organically and naturally for you, but I felt the stage being set long before I showed up there. The moment I walked in the door, it was so intentional. Like everything that you're doing is intentional, whether it's the sommelier that you're choosing to partner with, the food that's there, the way that you are through the way that your invitations are set up, the people that you're curating to be in attendance. How did that all come about?
So it started as the newsletter, and then I took a break from the newsletter. Honestly, it
Yeah,
was supposed to be a holiday break, and it ended up being a year and a half long break.
yeah,
And partly this was still when I was at the startup. We didn't know if we were moving or not. I was trying to
yeah,
figure out how to leave, and then I kind of just fell into freelance marketing life. And I still wanted to do something with wine and women.
yeah,
And I had met a few different women winemakers, women wine owners, and they were like, if you ever want to do a tasting, let me know. Um, and I love event planning. I just love planning, I think, is really the problem.
yeah,
And so I was like, I'll plan an event. It'll be great. So kind of out of nowhere, literally the night before we moved from LA to Kansas City. So my husband's like packing things up, and most of our stuff is gone in trucks on the
yeah, yeah,
way
yeah,
to
yeah,
or
yeah.
already arrived in Kansas City. And I'm running around hosting this wine event for women. So I did my first one
Yeah.
in LA and was able to gather a bunch of founders and CEOs and a woman wine importer, Sheila, who you met at the last event, and some of
Yes.
her winemakers came. And I read, as you mentioned, The Art of Gathering, and wanted to make sure that even if it wasn't some super high budget event,
Yeah.
it still felt very intentional,
Mhm.
and the women would feel comfortable, open, safe as soon as they walked in the door. That even if it wasn't like it was high touch, even if it wasn't necessarily high end in the monetary sense. And I wanted to make sure everyone was aware of what was going to happen at the event. So
Yeah.
to your point, making sure the stage is set before they walk in the door. For LA, where parking is always such an issue, I gave everyone like very specific parking instructions. Please arrive on time. This is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
This is the time we will be there. And truly the art of gathering was very, very helpful for me. But I'm also just such a control freak. And so I think that helps as well. And I am so, so done of working with, can I say on here?
Please do. Please do.
I was so tired of working with these friggin' at my previous companies that I wanted to make sure that this was a place where there were no,
Yeah.
and sure, there's always going to be someone who's chats more than someone else or talks more, but I try to make it very, very clear of like, we're all here. We're not here to sell to each other. You're not here to pitch yourself or your services or your business or whatever. You're here to, yes, be open and meet other people, talk to other people, but also listen to other people.
And that's exactly what happens. It's so funny. And when you're in conversation with really interesting, engaged people, I was just running around I'm like, oh, I would love for you to be in my podcast. And it wasn't as a pitch. It was more as a like, I love the world needs more of what's happening in this room, right? Because what's there in both of the rooms that I've been with you, there's this huge sense of curiosity. There's a sense of play. That's really, I find that was probably the most wonderful invitation. It happened in both of them. Like, what do you smell in this? Like, oh, I smell a leather jacket. I smell a bit of moth. And it was like, there were no wrong answers. And the fact that we were invited to not worry about a playbook that was created by somebody somewhere along the way about how you should experience wine. And we were just experiencing wine and food and conversation in just an authentic, playful way. Not childish, playful, very, very different. And it was just so, so remarkable. So remarkable.
I think the thing with wine, right? The reason, like, okay, you get a can of beer and you
Sure.
can drink that by yourself, right? It's
Sure.
just a can. You can get a cocktail. You can also drink that by yourself. A wine bottle is pretty big. I'm not saying I have never drunk a bottle by myself. It's certainly possible. So I've heard. But for the
You
most
may
part,
not
it's meant
remember
to
the
be shared.
bottle.
I mean, I remember the bottle that I had by myself, but for the most part, it's meant to be shared, right? Like you
Yeah.
hear in Italy, oh, this is just table wine because it's wine that's on the table for everyone around the table to be drinking and sharing. And so I think for me, especially with the events, wine is a great way to bring people together to have that shared experience. Obviously, the social lubrication of alcohol also helps. And I think starting off with wine too, wine can feel so intimidating.
Mm.
It's purposely seen as a snobby, pretentious thing. There's all these like fancy words around it. But if we can all just come into the room, gather together, share a glass of wine, kind of forget all that snootiness and just say, oh, this is what I smell or taste, or what does that mean, right? Like we had an orange wine at the December event and someone was like, I don't understand what that means. I hear about orange wine, but what actually is orange wine? And being able to talk about that,
Yeah.
so that everyone starts off with a little bit of a learning experience and not again in a condescending, I'm going to teach you kind of way,
No.
but we're all just being open to and curious. I think that also helps. And I get to drink wine, which is always a win-win.
Yeah. And as you're saying, I didn't clock this until just now. In both of the events, I happened to wind up talking to other sommeliers who were there as guests at both of your events, right? And it was the reason that I'm sharing that is that there was a democratization of the experience. Even the sommeliers in the room were just, they're enjoying it with us. And the one thing that actually Anna said to me was she's like, there are so many questions in this room. She's like, when I have a tasting with men, there are not this many questions. Like, and there's such a sense of curiosity as opposed to um authority or pretending like you have authority or pretending or hoping that no one figures out that you don't have authority on this topic, right? Like, which is very different, like in truly matriarchal spaces. Like, there is they like, ask the question, like, let's figure out how to get the answer. Let's all share, how can we get as many people to have a lovely experience and more knowledge. It's just, it's remarkable what you're doing.
I think too, wine, anything that you taste is so much of it is your own personal experience. Like I had this wine once, I think it wasn't some kind of orange wine from Georgia or something. And to me, it tasted like shiso, which is this Japanese mint, but a normal tasting note would not say shiso, right? Because the tasting flavors are often very Western
European.
palate.
Yeah,
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 European.
yeah.
And so if you have not tasted some of these things before, like I see, I'm studying for my next exam right now and all this, like cassis, black currant leaf. I don't know what black currant leaf tastes like, like, you know? And so, and also if you don't like a wine, just because someone else says, this is the best wine ever, doesn't mean you have to like it, doesn't mean you're gonna smell or taste the same things. And so I think that's also another reason why I try to encourage the women at my events to speak up and ask questions. And sometimes I'm like really kind of getting on them. I'm like, come on, like you can like raise your hand. Someone say, just
It's
shout anything
lovely.
you want.
As someone who's been, we love it. We love the encouragement. We love the encouragement. We
Because
need to be reminded. Yeah.
but you can do that. And I also want everyone to know, like, you might be like, I taste vanilla. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, great. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be like, no, you're wrong. What was it? I think there was the Amy Poehler movie, Wine Country is maybe what it's called. And
Oh,
the guy's like,
yeah.
there are no wrong answers. What do you smell? What do you taste? And she says something and he's like, no, you're wrong. You know? But it's
That's
like, I don't
usually
want
the
it to be like that. Right.
yeah, that's
So
the
I don't
more
want anyone to
typical
feel like that.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
No.
don't want to seem like an idiot where you're like, I taste citrus and lemons. And everyone's like, I don't taste that. And you're like, oh, well, I feel stupid now.
So, along this journey into what is now entrepreneurship, so it's like the corporate to sort of like freelancy, back to a little corporate, now into this entrepreneurship world. Have there been any sort of surprises for you or things that you're, like, because it's, I think that what people, when I entered in and started my LLC and did all the things, the hard work was always in unexpected places. I was like, right? It was like, I never thought that would be the hard thing. Like, there's all sorts of twists and turns and surprises. Like, were there any sort of big surprises for you or things that you could share for somebody who is looking to, maybe explore this, whether it's as a side hustle or as a passion project or as something that they want to do? Like, what were your things like into this journey that lessons that could be useful for others?
Oh my gosh. I don't know what the I'm doing. I mean,
Honest answer.
yeah,
Yeah.
I never thought that I would be an entrepreneur. My ex, who I went to move to the Bay Area for, and I was surrounded by all these, tech bros, and I
Hustling.
literally was hustling, and I was in Dolores Park once, and I heard two guys behind me literally say, "Okay, startup ideas, go." Like, and I was like, I hate this. I never want to have
So
anything to
interesting.
do with this. And so I really did not think that, and like especially after leaving acting, I was like, no more freelance life. I want my 9 to 5. I want my W-2. I want my PTO and my benefits. And here I am. So I think mm, partly the inability to, it's like you have to plan for some things, but you also have to be accepting of the fact that you can plan, but still not necessarily that things will go wrong, but other opportunities will come up. And then for me, the worst part is just all like the finances. I'm very lucky that my
Mm,
father-in-law is an accountant, and so he
that's
helps me with
great.
my
Accounting is my
taxes.
bane of my
And
existence. Yeah.
it's the worst. It's the worst. Honestly, that is like getting into the habit of every single week, every other week, whatever it is. every month minimum,
Yeah.
just going through everything and making sure I know what's coming in and what's going out and where it's going, and being organized is the worst. I hate that.
Yeah. I think for me, what's been the hardest part is not having, like, when you're doing it on your own, you don't necessarily, you have no one to talk to about the things, right? Which is why a space like yours was so, I like, it's so funny when I walked in there, I'll confess a little bit. The first one, like, I was not at a great point psychologically, and I was like, "Oh, do I have the audacity to consider myself somebody who's worthy of being in this room?" Right? And I walked out being like, "Yes, I am." And I got to talk about things, and it was more of like a, in that improv style, less yes and. There was more yes anding of what people were doing, whether it was my story or someone else's story. And finding those communities like the one that you've created, even if it's ephemeral for a night, that is a community, and like lots of interesting connections can come out of it. So I think that was my, like, I didn't realize quite how daunting it can be when you're making every decision yourself. Yeah.
That is very true. I mean, it's kind of like with the the accounting too, right? Like it's hard and it's annoying. It's not that hard. It's just annoying. But no, there's no one else to do it. I have to do it. And also, unless you, especially as a solopreneur, you're probably working from home in this day and age. And so I joined a co-working space just so that sometimes I can go and, be around people other than my cats, for
Yeah.
example. And it turns out my cats are not very good at helping me make decisions.
No.
So that's also tough. But
No.
yeah, having, in some ways, having to make all of the decisions myself is great because I get to do things the way I want to do them.
Mhm.
But also I have to make all of the decisions, and then future me has to do things the way that current me decided.
Decided to do them. I love that you're thinking about yourself and, like, yeah, yeah. I have the same
Yep.
thing. I'm like, what will she like me for this or not? I don't know. I don't
And so many times I'm like, that's a future Megumi problem, and then eventually future Megumi is like, well, shit.
you know. I'm going to be conscious of time. And you are always welcome to join me again because I adore you. You know this. I've said this in so many different ways in so many different forums and here as well. But um, anything that you want to, that we didn't touch on, that you want to, share with people, because you've given us so many examples of navigating the messy middle of your career and how you're moving in this world, right? Um, is there anything else that you wanted to highlight that we didn't touch on?
I think one of the things that has been so helpful to me is learning what I don't like and what I don't want. I think there's so much focus on what do you want, like right from when you're a kid. Everyone's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there were so many things that I learned from doing the things I did of what I didn't want. I
Mm,
learned that I did not want to be necessarily at a marketing agency. I didn't like the agency with the client type of
mhm,
life. I didn't like, this type of working environment. It can be
mhm,
people, it can be industries, it can be locations, right? Like maybe you don't like working remote completely and you
yeah,
like a hybrid. Whatever it is, I think there's so much emphasis on what do you like and what do you want. And so
mhm.
finding out what you don't like and what you don't want is also a great starting point to narrow things down for you and make it more specific.
Love that. And this, we could dig into this. It could be a whole 'nother episode, but, like, but you talked about earlier, it's making me think of something that earlier is, like, the knowing when to quit,
Hmm.
right? So that fits into it as well, and, like, Annie Duke's
Hmm.
got a great book on that, but it's just, like, the willingness to reinvent yourself. I just admire you for that. I just admire you for that.
Thank you. I've been very I don't know if I was very ever conscious. It was just sort of happening on a whim, but here we are.
We usually don't realize it until we're looking back in the rearview mirror like, "Oh, that happened. All right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. All right." I'm like, "That worked out. I had no idea that's where that was what was going on right now.
I
All
guess we're
right.
doing this now.
Guess we're doing this now." Um, Megumi, how can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Megumi Calver, and you can sign up for my newsletter weekly on Wednesdays. You get wine tips as well as some of my musings, thoughts, rants on being a woman in corporate America. And that's also where I'll post on my Instagram and in my newsletter about events and all other kinds of good things. And my newsletter you can find at merobebe.com, MEROBEBE.com.
Nice. And if you follow me on anything, I'm sure that I will give shout outs for this. She doesn't just do it in Kansas City. Like I said, she's come to New York. She's done it in other places. So even if you're not in those locations, there is something for you to gain out of all the things that you're offering. So I am insanely grateful that you joined me for this conversation. I look forward and I've got my eyes peeled for the next event in New York being
Yes.
announced, because I'm gonna be in the front row, like, cheering because it is just so amazing. You do such a beautiful job. Thank you, and I know that people got something out of this episode. I'm confident, and I'm sure that plenty of our listeners felt seen, heard, validated, like, "Oh, me too, I had that happen," or, "I felt that too." So, insanely grateful. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much, Indra. This was
Okay,
so lovely to chat with you always. So,
thank you. See y'all next time in the messy middle. Bye. Thanks for taking time with us in the messy middle. Word of mouth remains the most powerful way for people to find us. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app, download a few episodes, and share it with someone else who's navigating the in between. Do you have ideas for future episodes or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find our feedback form at themessymiddlematters.com or in the show notes. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This work is better when we do it together. Until next time.